Hello. So I just spent a couple days taking down all the Christmas decorations for this year, and since I have them all sitting out and drying out, I thought I'd spend a little time talking about them. So this is coming up onto our covered porch next to our kitchen, which is a great place for drying out ornaments. There we see two of the Santas that go up on the roof. They're part of one of the animated packages I do. If we pan down here, we see the rest of that same display. There's a Santa in a sleigh with some presents and a couple of reindeer. So, as I said, they're just sitting here to dry out. These are plywood. They're painted, but they get kind of heavy, and you need to make sure you dry them out or they will mold, which I found out last year on some of mine. Over on this side, we have just lights and lights and more lights and more lights and rope lights. So that's probably not very exciting. A couple interesting things. So this box here and all these cables go to my light orb that go up in the sky. If you look inside there, you'll see a whole bunch of 6-inch covers that go over lights, and inside those have a bunch of RGB LEDs. And you can also see, that's kind of the plan of how they look in the tree. So, controller, 12 volt, a lot of cable. What else do I have out here? Oh, these are kind of interesting. So I have these socket boxes, which are particularly designed for controls for connections. So they have these nice little rubber mounts here. So the wires go in and out through these. And what I do to reduce the number of trips I have on GFIs, there's a little 4-gang box here, cord running in, and then 4 individual GFIs. So what that means is, I'll still get some leakage, but I'm much less likely to trip. These plug into a non-GFI outlet, and I have 2 of them, 1 for each side of the house. That's mostly gotten rid of my nuisance trips, not all the way. The other one, this is what's called Ring of Fire, because it's a whole bunch of really high output red LEDs. So it's the first LED project I did, and then a controller very nicely waterproofed with backing tape. And then a bunch of cables. Normally I'd put those all away, but we got a lot of storms, so all the cables are not only got wet, but they're all covered with dirt. So all of them need to be cleaned off. So this is the outside stuff. It's drying off. Here, a bunch of EMT conduit. That's part of the balls in the tree and some other stuff. Now walk out into the garage, turn the lights on, and stand back, and this is everything else, pretty much. So let's start here at the other end. Sitting on this big tarp is what's called the Tree of Lights. You'll notice there's a big, long, 10-foot conduit piece up there, and then there's kind of running out to right and left. There would be 2 triangles, kind of with the base of the tree down here, and then branches as lights and other lights. And then in this box, this is part of the base. There's a really bright yellow set of LEDs at the top, and then hanging on it, on the Tree of Lights, see if I can find you a good background, that's not bad, are these LED elements. Now these run off of AC, so a whole bunch of LEDs connected in series, AC, and then there's a full wave bridge, or in this case 4 diodes hiding out in there. And then on the back, a whole bunch of silicone to both waterproof and isolate the electricity, because this is line voltage, which would not be nice. whole bunch of those. I think there are 8 elements that run, 7 or 8 that run on the tree. The Tree of Lights has gone through a few iterations. It was incandescent, then it went to LED. The ornaments have been unchanged and have held up quite well. Over here in this box is the controller for the Tree of Lights. See, kind of hiding off there on the right side is a small little microcontroller board. Runs a 68 HC11, and then inside there are a bunch of solid state relays, and I do my own zero crossing, so that means that I can detect and dim, so this supports dimming as well. Over here we have another controller. This is the controller for Santa and the reindeer. It's the first one I built, so this is, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years old. Probably 20, maybe 25. That has another 68 HC11 controller hiding there. Really simple. Ribbon cable running in, once again solid state relays inside the outlet boxes. And that's just caught in a big pile of cables out there. So those connect from the controller to the various cutouts. A lot more cable. What else do I have in here? These are the snowflakes, which are, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old now. These are made with individual PC boards. So translucent acrylic on the front that's laser cut, PC boards, and little standoffs there. Look at that, you can kind of see the LEDs. Those are WS2812 LEDs. This is kind of a version 1. I have a new version 2. It turns out part of my circuit design was crappy, and this version does not handle moisture very well. So they tend to short out after a while. Scattered around here, we have a whole bunch of penguin outlines. So that's this year's project. Pick up one of these, set them there, and these are all a whole bunch of individual colored LEDs, red ones, blue ones, green ones, to do the penguin outline. These are all hand wired. Unlike the other ornaments for the Tree of Lights, these run on 12 volt, so I didn't need to fully insulate them. They have a little silicone to help hold them on, and then they're also covered with acrylic, so I sprayed them with a bunch of spray acrylic from a spray can. And if you look, I've looked pretty closely, and I really don't see any corrosion after being out for 6 weeks. So that's a pretty good result. The controller for that, which I already showed in my penguin video, but my controllers are getting smaller and simpler. That's a little ESP32 with a couple MOSFET boards, custom underneath, and then just a few connection blocks to connect all the cable. That's all the cable, 2 cable harnesses that go out and connect to the penguins. And I use these little cheap waterproof connectors to connect. What else do we have? Okay, so this is the wiring harness for the snowflakes. Something that's kind of interesting. The snowflakes run on 5 volt, but they're scattered all over the place, and they pull a fair amount of current, so I didn't want to deal with voltage drop. So the harness and the power supply, there's a little power supply hiding in that baggie, run on 12 volt. And then I have these little, let's see if I can zoom in. That is a little 12 volt to 5 volt converter, little buck converter. So that way I have those out at the locations, so 12 volt or whatever I get with voltage drop all the way across, and then 5 volts right at the unit. So it's a lot nicer to do that. I use that approach here. I also use that approach on the globes I showed you earlier. They run on 12 volt, but they have a little 5 volt converter inside. Finally, one other thing, which is over on this side. I'm going to plug him in. So this is the animated snowman. So a bunch of globes you can see. Inside each globe there are 10 individual WS-2812s. So they throw light around, and then some WS-2812s on the front. If you look, you'll notice his mouth appears to be broken. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. There's clearly something wrong with the LEDs there. The other thing that looks pretty obvious is his head actually isn't working. You should see a whole bunch of light inside the head, and we don't see anything there. So I'm going to have to pull him apart. There's a long rod inside, and go through and refurbish him. He needs a little work anyway. The way I used to hook them together hasn't been holding up very well. So I'll take him apart. That'll probably be a separate video just to talk about what's going on there. So that's where we are right now. Just a whole bunch of stuff sitting around. Want to make sure I dry it well, especially the wood stuff. The wood, if you don't dry it well, is just going to mold. And that is, as I said, no fun. So there's the tour, and the outside is clean.